Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, Steve Bannon. Now, Bannon is back at the helm of Breitbart News. Just for those who don't necessarily remember or don't know, Steve Bannon is a guy who gets the label of being a white nationalist. He's also the guy that worked with Donald Trump and pushed Donald Trump in this kind of populist campaign rhetoric. He is, I would argue, the brain trust of the operation. Bannon either was pushed out the White House or left the White House, but he is now out of the White House and he's back at the helm of Breitbart. In an interview with Charlie Rose, the questioning came up about the firing of Comey. I've heard a few opinions on this. I'm gonna make a case that both of those opinions are wrong, and both of those opinions are wrong for different reasons, even though they're coming to similar conclusions. But I think both are wrong. Cenk and H.A. Goodman. I think H.A. is massively wrong on this one. Let's take a look at Bannon's point, and then we can have a conversation about it. Come on. There we go.
James Comey was fired, correct?
As I remember, yes, sir.
Were you in favor of him being fired?
It's been reported in the media that I was adamantly opposed to that. I don't want to talk about private conversations about it. The media's reported I was adamantly opposed to.
It is also true, many say, and you're a smart guy, that if James Comey had not been fired, we would not have the Mueller investigation. True?
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any doubt that if James Comey had not been fired, we would not have a special counsel. Yes.
So we would not have the Mueller investigation.
Would not have the Mueller investigation. Would not have the Mueller investigation in the breadth that clearly Mr. Mueller is going.
Do you believe?
Because I think it's a very directional. I think directionally it's a very different.
Do you believe Mr. Mueller should be fired?
No, I do not.
Has there been discussions in the White House about firing him?
I would not tell you about discussions in the White House, but I would tell you nothing I ever heard like that.
Someone said to me that you described the firing of James Comey, you're a student of history, as the biggest mistake in political history.
That would be probably be too bombastic even for me, but maybe modern political history.
So the firing of James Comey was the biggest mistake in modern political history.
If you're saying that that's associated with me, then I'll leave it at that.
All right, so you heard him. The firing of James Comey was the largest mistake or the biggest mistake in recent political history. Now, Cenk went with this idea that Bannon is the innocent party in this, or that Bannon is somewhat misguided because he believes Trump is guilty. The problem is there's somewhat of a circular logic. It's, well, Trump fired Comey purely because Trump was guilty and Trump was trying to kill the investigation. That's the perspective of Cenk Cenk kind of takes this perspective that Trump colluded with Russia in some way, and because he colluded with Russia in some way, this was just more evidence of that guilt. I don't think that's true, but that's the way he's going with it. Now, H.A. goes with it at a different angle, but so H.A.'s opinion, and I'm putting his video at the bottom, he goes with this idea that Trump was justified in firing Comey and that Bannon is wrong on this point. And he does this entire video kind of making this point about Hillary Clinton, and Comey wasn't going to go after Hillary Clinton, that Comey dropped the ball on Hillary Clinton, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not about Hillary Clinton, dude. It has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. H.A. is right in the sense that there was justification for firing Comey. Comey, it's as if we're in a banana republic where Comey pretended as if he was actually having an investigation. He wasn't having an investigation. Comey had made up his mind before even getting many of these interviews. So this whole drama about whether or not he was going to indict Hillary Clinton, he had already made up his mind. The choice had already been made. So if you're looking for a reason to fire somebody, yes, incompetence is a reason to fire somebody. Or duplicitous behavior, whatever you want to categorize that as, yes, from a justification standpoint, yeah, it makes sense. But that's not Bannon's point. That's not Bannon's point at all. Hillary Clinton has nothing to do with this. Legitimacy has nothing to do with this. Whether or not Comey should have been fired or not has nothing to do with this at all. Zip. His answer, do you believe that they would have had a special counsel had he not fired Comey? He says, no, I don't believe they would have had a special counsel. In the breath Mr. Mueller is clearly going. Do you understand that Comey may have been considered inept, but Comey, for the most part, wasn't having an investigation to the degree that Mueller is having this investigation? Whether or not there's evidence of Trump colluding with Russia doesn't matter. It's besides the point. Jury or trials have little to do with what's actually true. It has to do with what you can prove, or, particularly in politics, the motives behind the people who are trying to do those things. What I'm getting at is that Trump, the evidence to tie Trump to Russia is scant at best. Trump firing Comey made it look like Trump was guilty. Now, understand, this entire time, and this kind of goes to the other point, the evidence between those two things were immensely scant. Then the question becomes, why is there a special counsel right now? Why is there a special counsel looking through Trump's business dealings? Why? If the evidence was scant, why is there a special prosecutor? There's a special investigator because Trump fired Comey. It looks immensely guilty. It looks immensely bad. Now, whether or not Trump has something to do with it or not is besides the point. It has nothing to do with it. Whether or not Comey was going to go after Hillary Clinton, again, besides the point. They are going after him for impeachment. You understand that, right? Like, they're playing for keeps. They're going after this guy for impeachment. They're trying to take down the president. And you're talking about Hillary Clinton. This has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. Trump should be covering his ass, not necessarily shuffling deck chairs in regards to the FBI. The President of the United States fires the FBI, head of the FBI, as the head of the FBI was investigating the same President of the United States. Now, the question becomes, how many people pay attention to politics? How many of those people are going to understand the nuance that Trump might not have seen Comey as being loyal, or that Trump might have even known about this shady dealings that went on with Comey in regards to Hillary Clinton? Again, Trump may have had justification to make that firing, or to fire him. It's not the point. It has nothing to do with the point. Reality has nothing to do with the point. It's politics. This is purely politics. This is purely politics. Do you honestly believe that that context is going to filter down to the average Joe Schmo who's seeing a story or hearing a soundbite? Do you honestly believe that those people are going to full well understand that Trump may have had justification for firing Comey? Beyond that, even if it does filter down, do you think those people are going to be willing to turn a blind eye to somebody that they absolutely despise? The answer is yes, they would turn a blind eye. They would not care if Donald Trump get impeached. They don't care what it means for the country. It doesn't care that they're toppling a presidency. None of that stuff matters. Ultimately, they're getting somebody out that office that they absolutely despise. Now, Republicans don't like Trump, meaning in office, the politicians. Democrats certainly don't like Trump. They would prefer, meaning Republicans, Mike Pence in that spot. So if you believe that the Republican Party is going to be some kind of bulwark against impeachment, not so much. Not so much. This argument that because they don't have any evidence that there's, no reason for Trump to be concerned, that's insane. That's insane. They've literally, if that's true, if that's absolutely true, then we would not have a special prosecutor right now. That prosecutor has expanded the investigation, meaning that investigation went from this collusion with Russia to we're looking into his business dealings. I guarantee you, between Comey and a special investigator, or a special prosecutor, or a special counsel, he would have been better off with Comey. And at the very least, all of those howling Democrats and everything else, they could howl all they want. They didn't have a connection between those things. Right now, they didn't need a connection. Trump firing Comey allowed all of this to proceed the way it's going. And I don't necessarily think there's anything between Trump and Russia in regards to colluding to hack the DNC. That was a leak. But do I believe there's business dealings between Trump and Russia? Yes. Absolutely. I would even be willing to believe that part and parcel to Trump firing Comey had to do with this thing of loyalty. And it may even had to do with this thing of, I don't want this guy roaming around in my business. I think this guy is disloyal. All those things could be true. None of those things matter. You're constrained by the politics of the moment. That constraint is if the FBI, head of the FBI, is investigating the President of the United States, then you let the head of the FBI investigate the President of the United States. Anything else makes you look guilty. The appearance of guilt is all they needed to get a special counsel. Understand, they didn't have any evidence, meaning they had no smoking gun evidence tying Trump to Russia. Nothing, particularly not in this context of this hacking or anything else. None of these people did. So you're still stuck with this question of, then how did they get a special counsel? What Bannon said is probably the most important thing that's being missed. In the breath that Mueller is clearly going, the tone of the investigation is different. The tone of it is different. They're going after him. You can make the case that Comey wasn't necessarily going to go to those lengths. Does Trump know if the special counsel will go to those lengths? Does he know whose allegiances this special counsel is associated with? None of this stuff has to be true. That's kind of the point I'm trying to nail home. You only have to look guilty. Looking guilty is enough. Looking guilty is enough, particularly from the standpoint of the American public. They're trying to damage and weaken and at very least create a huge amount of innuendo that Trump has something to do with this. Whether he has something to do with it or not, again, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. This has nothing to do with trying to prosecute Hillary Clinton. Trump may want somebody to go after. That may or may not be true. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Ultimately, what this boils down to is the point that Bannon is making. They're trying to take your head. And if you wanted to keep your head, or at the very least, if you wanted to have an easier way, leaving Comey to his devices would have been better off. It's like this kind of radical transparency. I have nothing to hide. Have at it. Is a little bit easier than I'm firing the head of the FBI. So I'll leave it at that. If HA wants to debate on this point, bring it. I'm teasing. There's nothing to debate on. But I do think I'm right on this, and I actually agree with Bannon on this. And look, I don't give a shit if he's a white nationalist or anything else. If he's right, he's right. He was a brain trust. Trump fucked himself over by letting Bannon walk. So, alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, write, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.